All right, the topic we have is why we overreact. How many of us think we never overreact or it's an exaggeration? Typically we think we react or overreact to a situation. Coffee spills on the carpet. It's an expensive carpet, and I overreact. And it seems very natural. I need to teach my children or someone who spilled the coffee to handle it carefully. But rarely that happens. And if I can pause, the trigger is the coffee falling on the carpet, and the reaction is the outcome of that trigger. If I can pause in between, I will realize that it is something deep within me. Some situation awakens within me that makes me react to that situation. So, if we can go back and recall where we have, where we tend to overreact, what could those be? Somewhere a child does not listen to us and we feel we are a failure as a parent. It's ultimate. It's not that child may not be interested at this moment, may not have heard me. Maybe I'm not loud enough. Maybe I'm nagging. No, we think they never listen to me. We go to that ultimate statement, which creates fear in everybody. A spouse will criticize us. We cook every day, and one day there is an extra salt, and if anybody says there is an extra salt, we get very offended. I cook every single day. There is no appreciation, but today there has to be a comment. Well, if it was just a comment, not to criticize, but I take it as criticism because of something is awakening within me, something deep down suppressed emotions are awakening, and I don't know how to handle. Maybe you are very, very punctual kind of a person, and a friend says they're coming over at 5 o'clock. It's 5, 5:01. I mean, I was at a situation one time. We were waiting to meet someone for an interview at 11 a.m. and we patiently waited till 11:01. I'm like, this is it. Can't wait anymore. And the person was new to that mall and he had already texted saying he's there, but then 11 he's not there. So we are overreacting. I did that, I went for a massage and the person did not show up at a set time and I'm ready to walk out. Then understanding the situation, giving that little pause will help me slow down my thinking process, will help me avert that overreaction. When I walk into my child's room, it's messy, and there it goes. Maybe as an indication to me as a parent, I never taught my child how to keep the room clean. I've told them so many times, it's only me who has to be doing all the time. Nobody ever cares around here. We go ballistic. But the intensity, reacting to it is okay. It's a messy room. Please clean it up. Can I help you clean it up? Shall we clean it up? Setting up a weekly rhythm to clean it up, or maybe micro habits to put things away wherever they belong is one thing. But the intensity with which we react, you never listen, you don't care, I don't want you under my roof. There are lots of us. It is coming more from accumulated stress, unmet emotional needs. I was talking to a friend of mine, and it was interesting because her mother-in-law passed away and she grieves. I mean, it's been several years. She still is grieving. And she said when she was alive, we were fighting every day. Her daughter is happy and going. It's her own mother. She's okay with it. But I am the one who is still reacting, who is still feeling that the guilt or pressure, or whatever, the loss. Why is it? Unmet emotional need. In this particular case, the my friend lost her father very early in her childhood, and so there is this father figure, an elderly figure, a parent figure that she is wanting in her life to be there for her. Now, mother-in-law indicated that fit that image. So that unmet emotional need will show up somewhere. Past experiences. The intensity of my reaction is coming from my past experience. Somewhere my child left the room messy, my in laws came in, they had to share the room, and they commented that you are not this, you are not that kind of a mother, and I never raised my children this way, whatever. So there is pressure. And the same situation, similar, maybe in laws are not returning, someone else is coming over. And typically with women, we have this identity with the kitchen, identity with the house. So something is not right. We think I, as a person, am a failure, right? So there could be any of these, coming from stress, unmet emotional needs, my past experiences, my deeply held beliefs. Somewhere, a lot of we Indian language are very beautiful. It's filled with these idioms and phrases and proverbs, and it is we hold on to that. Swami Chinmayananda once said, if you rest, you rust. So another friend of mine, her father believed in this very much. So he kept working, no rest. Keep working, keep doing one thing or the other. And that kind of got into her as a child. If you rest, you rust. And she became like compulsive multitasker. You got to be busy doing something. Very difficult to slow it down. And then when something comes at me and I really need time to process it, to take it easy and slow, I overreact because this is ringing in my mind. Background noise is going on. If you rest, you rust. So do it, do it, do it. And maybe I get married to a spouse. So why do you rush? Slow down. I overreact. If he slows down, I'm like, why don't you take it up and do it now? So what's the rush? I have that going within me, deeply held beliefs. So it's important for us to look at, what is it that's triggering? Is it the fear, some kind of fear? Growing up, my parents had it in me, my teachers had it in me, and that's one of the very common things we instill it so beautifully. If you don't eat the gurkha, in my times it was gurkha, those nighttime watchmen. Now it's police, or there would be, if we happen to spot lunatic case, madman, we'll say, oh, that person will come and take you away. Because we just want my child to eat at that point, behave at that point of time. That's all I'm worried as a parent or as an adult around the child. But long-term repercussions, I can only understand when I go back into my own childhood. What held me, and thinking of it, about my past and reflecting, am I doing any of these now? We have very set beliefs. Dosa has to be eaten with chutney. you know, and suddenly someone offers you with moong dal sabzi, like you, dosa cannot be eaten with that, but then they're used to that. And it takes me a while to understand. That's why it's important for me to travel, for getting to know people from different regions, languages, culture, traditions. Exposure helps a lot, right? And somewhere where I'm losing control, I feel like I'm losing control. So there is identity crisis. I feel maybe a fear of rejection, fear of being alone. Could be the cases where we tend to overreact. And in many mothers, especially with young children, children are not yet settled. It's phases of going through, and there are children with 3, 4 years of age difference, two kids. The older child has a different developmental needs, the younger one has another developmental need. We are exhausted, exhausted because of sleepless nights. I have one other parent, she has grown up children, like, grown up in the sense 9, 8 or 9 and 12, 13 year olds. But then she's been running on the treadmill. She's just purely exhausted. And when you ask about her routine, she's very much she wants the culture and tradition of the family to be passed on. So children have to take shower and chant all of these shlokas in the morning. And she's also very much into nutrition. So they have to eat healthy meals, healthy breakfast, everything healthy. And she has to cook it fresh. And then she also wants something for herself. So she's taken up a very challenging career, and then family support is not there. Husband works a different schedule at different time zone, travels, and she's exhausted. Can you drop off some? There's fear of dropping. What if I drop? Uh, if I let my child not chant one day, oh, they'll lose the culture out. What if they no eat some junk one day? Oh, no, 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 their health will go bad. What if you give up on your career for a little bit? Oh no, then who will take me back? So everything, we have like given out bundles of ropes and I have asked people to tie us up. I'm exhausted. And in some cases, there are also very unrealistic expectations. I have another friend. Her son is on the spectrum, and she wants the child to academically perform, going one after the another, pushing the child to just get the degree after degree. So pushing the child so much beyond their own limits, beyond my own limits as a parent to support, in the end come back with that fear that I don't want to be accepted as the best mother available for this child. And, putting up with this exhaustion to a point when I can no more handle at certain point. All of that put together, I overreact when the child does not respond to academics. Or when some other says, leave it, it's okay, spend some time with the boy. All old memories, old wounds surface. So the important thing is again, our standard mantra, silence, pause, look at it. What I'm doing is what is something I want to do. Look at the long-term benefits. What did I wish that my teacher had a little patience, my parents had a little bit of love despite so many people visiting home. And once in a while, my parents allowed me to have fun with my friends. Now, there are many parents who, in this day and age, when sleepovers, inviting friends over, going to friends' places, common, mother is like, hell no. And children are growing up resenting. So everyone has a different situation, and I need to figure it out by only slowing down. There is no best way, there is more optimized way. Am I putting effort in optimizing what I have right now to what I can do right now to what is it that I want for my child going forward? And each of us must come up with our own little solutions for these overreactions that I experience. Thank you.